So one of the questions I keep asking people is, what is power and what gives you power? And I got a lot of really interesting responses. And by the way, the group of people that I talked to were like notable global economists, CEOs of big companies you would all recognize the names to, authors, general managers. I mean, it was a pretty powerful group and a little bit intimidating even to ask the question. So I figured, they'll give me the answer. And I'll build the talk, and you guys will love it, and we'll be done, right, kind of thing. And what was interesting is they actually all had this very strange response to the word power. And it became like a Rorschach test, because there was a group of people who thought of power as evil, meaning those who have power will be corrupted. There are those people who thought power is great, and by the way, I'm already powerful. And then there was the vast majority of the group that was in the space of I'm not in that category. I don't even know how to talk about it. And if you kind of think about it as a distribution curve, it would be sort of evenly settled out with the vast majority in the middle. That surprise you? Probably doesn't, does it? So the very nature of power itself, in my mind, is changing. I just want to kind of back up and give sort of a topo view of that. Because about 100 years ago, what gave people power was often their strength. In the caveman days, it was the people who could make tools. In the modern day of business, it was the people who could make cars. Right? Production, it was the era of production, and we valued strength. And then we went into an era where we made chips. Right? And of course, being where we are, we made a lot of them. And that was the information era, where what you knew drove power. And I believe we're about to enter a new age, or that we're already in it, and we can't quite see it because we're just on the early edge of it. This is an age of emotional power, an age of creativity. That what we produce is more about an experience and less about a thing. And whenever power is changing, it gives opportunity. I believe power is no longer centralized within the hallmark of the C-suite in organizations. I believe organizations, in order to go faster, is going to figure out how to distribute that power everywhere inside the business. And that means more of us will need to step up. Power itself, to me, is a really sort of interesting concept. It's both simple and complex, ancient and current. And so to think about power for today, I was trying to think of what would be an interesting meta model we could use, and I chose superheroes. Because to me, it is both incredibly simple to study superheroes and also really current, because superheroes have been around for quite some time and they exist today. And so in preparation for today's talk, I studied Batman. And my son, who is 6 years old, loved that I was willing to do homework to study Batman. And we sat around the couch, and then every time I had a major lesson, I'd be like, oh, gotta write that down, kind of thing. And he'd be like, Mom. And I'm like, this is homework, really, it's homework. Try to teach him that for everything you need to study. So I'm going to kind of use that as an archetype today, but here's the basic giveaway for what I think this talk is. I believe you already have power. And I believe that you have all the power you need for the task you have ahead of you. That's my punchline. I've just given it away. Now I'm going to spend the rest of the time kind of talking a little bit about what we can learn from superheroes and why you might want to believe that also. For those of you that are in the Twitter universe, how many of you guys are Twitterers? There you go. Hashtag, new how, and of course my handle. It's just to help the Twitter people. So the first thing, as I sat down to think about what is a lesson we can derive from superheroes, is the notion of what they believed in. They all believed in something big. Superman wanted to save planet Earth. Spider-Man wanted to rid people of injustice. Batman actually wanted to rid the city of Gotham from fear. And so from that place, they all believed in something so much that they couldn't stop doing it. They understood that. And in fact, many of them didn't actually want to be superheroes. But they believed in this cause. And that's how it is when we really believe in something. We're going to do it till the cows come home. Right? Because we can't not do it. It is our essence of who we are. We believe in it. For me, for example, I really believe that every person can have a voice in business. That's a deep belief. It's a belief from when I was really little, when my voice wasn't heard and I didn't have personal dignity. And then I went into business and I realized that I didn't have dignity because I didn't have a degree. And my voice was suppressed supposedly because I didn't have the right education, because I worked my way through school. And then it continues to be interesting to me that how many people inside organizations, their voice is not heard and respected. And to me, that just represents lost opportunity. Because in those voices, there's a great deal of experience to be had, a lot of wisdom to be had. And I don't think companies are succeeding very well in the formulation of strategy because they're not tapping into those voices. So that's my belief. And regardless of whether or not you all believe that, that's not the point. I'm going to keep believing this because I'm going to drive it forward. And I'm going to keep being shaped by the conversation I have, and I'm going to keep pursuing it. I really want you to ask yourself, what is it you really believe? And it can be big, like saving the city of Gotham. It could be small, and I'm not actually suggesting this one's small, but perhaps it's more local, to change education. Because I know the education system, especially in California, is really hurting, and I know a lot of people really care about that issue. Whatever that issue is, I really want you to think about what that is, because when we recognize that, then we pursue it. It becomes a magnet for us, right? Like it did for Batman. The second thing that superheroes can teach us is that we need the right tools. Now, in the case of Wonder Woman, it was some seriously bullet-repelling bracelets, which all of us could use. And, of course, she had the lasso of truth, which helped everyone reveal things. That was awesome. And, but for us, it could be education. It could be about experiences. Right? But there's a tool set we're going to need to go on our quest. We need to think about what that is. Now, notice I did not say that you need a great title or you need a lot of authority. I think sometimes that gets in the way. It doesn't hurt, but it can get in the way. So the great tool set. Superheroes need great tools. The other things they need are sidekicks. This is Robin. Or a very bad representation of Robin. They need sidekicks. And you know what's interesting about the Batman story is that he didn't do it alone. And he had several really interesting collaborators. Alfred got all the tools. Alfred signaled the bat signal. So who was more powerful? Right? So I find it really interesting because a lot of people focus on sort of the guy in the cape, or in our case, chick in the cape. But we forget all the different participants in that ecosystem. So besides being really, it being fun to work with other people, they're incredibly necessary. So in the case of Batman, he had the police force, which he didn't fight against. He actually collaborated with. He had Batman, who basically enabled the entire technology of the system. He had Robin, who bailed him out of trouble. And those characters who came and picked him up when he had fallen. Because as great, powerful people, we will fall. We see it all the time in leadership. And it's the person who comes and picks us up and takes us back to a safe place that really matters. So having good sidekicks clearly matters. Being a good collaborator. Another part about being a superhero, and I think actually a distinctive part, is to know to don the cape. The difference between a wannabe superhero and a wannabe powerful person and a not so powerful person or a superhero themselves, the difference between the two. Did I just say that right? I didn't say that right, did I? You guys heard me though, right? You got run the translation system there. You got it. My husband always says, I run an auto translator for you sometimes. I'm like, good. So help me out on that one. But the difference between the two, sort of being powerful and not, and being a superhero and not, is putting on the cape.